Oh yeah, Black Sun in the Hizzle, all for shizzle dizzle. We got an excellent show here today. I just text Nature Mom. She's running a little late, so as we wait for, her, I'm going to, as we wait, I'm going to tap in on some things here on YouTube. So as we wait on Nature Mom to get here, um, MD and I, we've been doing reports on the Donbass regarding Prigozhin, uh, Prigozhin, damn, on but the Wagner group. And so what's going to happen? They gave him a deadline until the 10th. I don't know if Putin's going to fulfill that deadline. However, there's a Chechnyan group that is going to take over. So Prigozhin is done. I guess he's saying, look, man, we fulfilled our contract. Okay, Nature Mom just texted me. Okay. She's on her way, y'all. She's on her way. As I was saying, I think Prigozhin, let's see what she says. Working on text. Okay. All right, y'all. So we're gonna hold it down until she gets here. I think she's having a little tech trouble. So anywho, yeah, Prigozhin, I guess he's saying he's fulfilled his obligation, his contract. So how that usually works with they call soldiers of fortune, mercenaries. It's like independent contractors. They go and they have a set contract, and I guess they had so much being the Bakhmut, so much ground to cover, and so since they've gotten 95% of the country taken over, I guess, and then ammo's running out, Prigozhin feels like, hey, okay, we fulfilled our end. We're running out of ammo, and that's tapping into our resources. We come here to make money. We come here to make a profit. We're assigned a specific project, and that being Bakhmut. Once they fulfilled that, and I guess he weighs his options as far as casualties, weaponry, ammo, and because his ammo's running low, he's like, "Yo, you know what? This is now." This is not part of the contract. Like, our contract here is to make money. Even though he's a patriot, he'll fight for Russia, but he has other obligations, and being that the military wants to be stingy, it's like, well, you know what, y'all can, being the Red Army, y'all can handle it from here. We did our part, and then the contract. So Prigozhin, I guess, I mean, unless Putin gets those get that ammo to him, I guess it's a done deal. Okay, what's going on, Nature Mom?
It's live already?
Yeah.
Huh?
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. You can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Hi there.
Yeah.
We're working on the technical still.
Oh, that's fine.
Our birthday boy Noki is on the job today.
Oh, cool.
Thank you,
Okay.
Noki.
All right.
I mean, your life in your phone is okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Thanks, Nokes.
Enjoy.
Okay, so we're set up. You're getting waves.
Yeah, your mic sounds.
You got a wave back.
Yeah,
it sounds pretty good.
Man,
having a groove helps, huh?
Man, it does. Yeah. That mic sounds really, really good.
It's crispy.
I'm looking for the curtain, so I still haven't put it up. I'm still looking for it.
Yeah.
We're
or something else you can do. I don't know, like, what's the measurements of your window, but you see that we had these made, and that really helped a lot.
Right. Oh, you had a maid.
Because
Okay.
yeah. I mean, like just took some pallets and bought some rock wool, not rock wool, but which wool fiber, a wool fiber, and stuffed them, and then just got a audio transparent fabric from this fabric store.
Okay.
And just stapled it together, because this space is actually my studio. Okay. Yeah, so I'll get to show you guys. This is my I can't show you. Wrong camera. Oh well, sorry, can't show you.
Next time. Maybe next time. Okay.
Yeah, another time. This is my studio. So on this side we have the whole drum kit and some instruments. Yeah, so we really need to control sound here.
Right, so it don't bounce off and echo. And trust me, I remember those days.
You remember. Yeah, we're still working on the doors, which is the biggest challenge. The doors and the windows.
Yeah, I do. Oh, yeah, because you got to soundproof it.
And it's very expensive to soundproof.
Soundproof an apartment?
I mean, it's
that's a project.
A rented villa, so it's at least a house, but so still, we don't have what?
You don't have neighbors?
Yeah, well, there's a neighbor directly in front of us right now.
So
bedroom right across the way.
How do you keep the sound from disturbing them?
I don't right now. I just let them know that I have work and if it can't be any louder than that.
Hello. Okay.
And just imagine, like, we just in this very close vicinity. I mean, I could hear about like 7 to 8 mosques going off at the same time.
I bet. Actually, you know what? It's funny. It's not so foreign to me because we actually have a community here in the West End, and they do that there. But it's just one person. But he's loud. He has a bull. He like. So it's just one. And he got a bull.
It's just one. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So just imagine that each one of these mosques have a huge sound system, an external sound system connected to it.
No.
And so from like about 3:30 in the morning on, you're hearing them all go off at the same time. Yes. And good morning. Yeah. So it's quite a challenge. Yeah. It's like, that's why I go to sleep so early, because you have to wake up early. You have no choice here.
You ever ask me to come to some Islamic country? Don't ever.
I invite you.
No. I know come.
You have a good time.
I know come. No.
You would enjoy yourself so much.
I know come. No.
You might be invited as a guest speaker at one point.
Very noise sensitive. I'm very noise sensitive in my old age.
They say it's the autism in all of us, right?
Hey, I got a severe case of it thing because the lights, like I have to hear the squirrels talk. If I don't hear the squirrels talking, I'm upset.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
If I'm not able to hear that, I'm upset.
Yeah, I get you. I mean, I have to say I'm a little bit of the same, but unfortunately, we're the disturbers around here because of the nature of our work. Yeah, we're quite loud, so I figure I'll let the mosques get away with it this time.
Righty. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Damn.
When your house is your studio and your home.
Right.
You make quite a bit of noise, and the launch pad for all projects.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you got to roll with the punches.
Not I. Not I. I'd be like 911. Yes, they're making noise again. Yeah, that's me. No, I can't do the noise.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
me.
you would be that neighbor that would call the
Yes,
police on us all
I'm
the
gonna
time.
I'm gonna be that neighbor. Yes, yes. Your brother
Oh,
is that neighbor. Yes.
you're our
Come on
Karen.
in. Yes, yes. They're being loud again. Can you ask them to come?
Yeah.
I'm with Karen.
So
Yes.
and just imagine, like, it's not just like the music, it's not just the photography, because the photography, we have these huge systems. So with these huge systems comes huge clients, and we have to have traffic in and out all the time, and
Well,
so we
it's not
have this music studio here, we have the bullet time studio downstairs, and so
okay.
you have a lot of people in and out, so it's really a
Okay.
challenge.
Okay. So people in and out. Okay. So because people, the neighbors think I'm like some evil dude. No, as long as you're not playing your music, the bass real loud, no problem. And like
No,
doing your motorcycle, wee 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 wee, like the kids actually
oh
think
yeah,
because
that's
you're
not
playing
us.
it loud.
That's the locals doing those with their cars, and
Yeah,
you can hear it from several kilometers away.
right. That's
All hours, and they usually do it like late hours. Yeah. So when the highways are clear is when they want to do this,
right,
because they can.
right,
You can't do it during rush hour.
right.
It's
Well,
pointless.
here and it's why I don't understand a little. They're for off road for a reason. You know why they're off road, right? Why they're not street legal? Can you? Okay,
I mean, let's just say they are street legal here, because most of the
well,
locals,
they're supposed to be off road. How are they street legal when they're off road? That
because
is a contradiction.
off laws are regional, right? And most of the people engaging in these activities here are the locals. It's not expats that are usually doing that.
No, I
And
understand that, but if you have
yeah,
they're called off road vehicles for a reason because of the noise. So because they are they have a certain noise
a
ordinance.
decimal
So
point, yeah.
yeah, they're meant for taking these vehicles off road. I think
Yeah.
people miss that whole meaning. It's off road for a reason. It means you take it off into the woods, you take it away from the roads because it's too loud. So you got and that's usually off road. You take it to a specific location off
Yeah.
road.
I mean, that type of, let's say, logic doesn't exist
Of
here.
course not. Of course, they don't
Yeah.
exist here either. Because I mean, you
Nah.
gotta, yeah. Because even some of the police, they're like, "Oh, really? Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, like, yes. Let me pull it up. Yeah, the ordinance number here. It says, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
that
yeah,
person.
yeah,
I,
yeah. I
my,
mean, but let's say, like, the police here are usually the ones engaging. So, their kids, because they're usually the locals, and
right.
the long stayers, and they participate in these activities. So, you complaining about it is like, it's asinine to them. They
No, no.
think that it's
Here
just so
too. Here
strange.
too. Until you take their asses to court, then it's a different.
Yeah.
Then when you get the judge involved and you let them know that, well, according to ordinance, this and that. Oh, by the way, can I get a police report? Then they know you mean business. But if you just
Right.
complaining, oh my gosh, yeah, then they're like, oh yeah, oh, oh really, oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay.
I mean,
Come
here a big
I mean,
issue is honking. It's real. I mean, there's a lot of
yeah,
laws and campaigns against it, and
mhm,
I thought that New York was pretty aggressive about their honking laws. No, here is they're really like putting it out there. Although nobody follows the laws, they really take the laws as suggestions, not as, like you said, ordinances. And
right.
so you have, I mean, even
Well,
the
it just depends on as an individual how much you want to pursue it. So, like I said, it all
right.
starts. They know you mean when you ask the police for a police report.
Yes,
You're
this
like,
changes
oh,
everything.
oh,
Yes.
okay, they're serious about this because
Yes.
usually a police report equals meaning I'm going to take this to court at some point in time.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
it's
then they
true.
know. But if you don't ask for a
Yeah,
police report, then they just blow it off. They're just like, oh, okay, you're complaining. But when you ask
yeah.
them for a police report, now it's documented and this has a potential to go to court. That means as soon as I write this police report, there might be a chance I might have to be subpoenaed into court.
It's
So
true.
now I got to write shit down and say what I did.
Right, right, and be
Yeah,
very clear, and yeah.
right.
No, yeah, here is still a working progress. I mean, let's not
Okay.
forget that this the country is very newly wealthy, and as well,
Wait, when you say newly
very.
wealthy, because they've had oil since the
Oh,
70s, right?
they've had, well, since '63 was when it
Okay,
was
got you.
discovered, but they were British colonized at that point. So it took
Oh,
some time before they were independent, and
got
then knowing what to do with their independence,
you.
and
Okay.
developing it in the world, and especially as the world, like, being a white supremacist world, that when we talk about first world countries or core nations,
Okay.
they weren't so quick to do business with brown people, so
Right. Right.
it wasn't until situations like this, war with Russia, that really they've established. I mean, just let's see, even just before this, they've established their importance in the world.
Okay.
And it's kind of an interesting anecdote, because Germany just recently, has come to this region and would like to, do business, and purchase petrol,
Okay.
etc. And what's funny is that, like, Qatar, Saudi, other Gulf region countries petitioned Germany in the late '70s and the '80s, and
Right.
Germany was like, "No, thanks, we get it from Russia." So it's just funny how tables turn.
Yeah, it is funny how tables turn, but you got to look at. I mean, in the argument's sake of Germany, um, Russia's closer,
Right,
so it would be cheaper.
right, right. And
So you
then
got
they
to
built that
consider.
pipeline that went right, yeah,
Right.
through.
So you have
Yeah,
to kind of look at that. I mean, you got
but
to kind of be
actually, to answer that question, what Qatar particularly did, which was quite ingenious of them, is they invested, I mean, for decades, into a system that liquefied the natural gas
right. Yeah.
resources,
Yeah.
and that really put them on the like market as top competitors, because it
Right.
became much cheaper, even cheaper than that pipeline,
Oh wow.
to
But
yeah, to
you still
ship
have to
it.
transfer it, ship it though, right? That costs
Yes.
me how to.
and
Okay.
and the, like, I mean, the cost of shipping it versus all of
Hmm.
those costs of repairing those pipelines became much cheaper. So
Okay.
it's really
Interesting.
interesting, yeah, how
Right.
that
Right.
has turned over in the last couple of decades, and really brought the Gulf region into this, petrol game and this natural gas game as top competitors. So,
Right.
the question is, they're really, when you're still, you're thinking about, yes, they're quite, privileged people. Their government gives them housing, cars,
Mhm.
jobs, and education for nearly free. So the next question is, you have highly educated, newly highly educated people with very old world customs and
Okay.
old world ideologies, that, let's say it hasn't held them back, because, one of my very good friends, she is the very first female, pilot of the whole region.
Okay.
So, you can get around if you need to. I have another friend, she's the first distance endurance rider, female endurance rider of the whole of Qatar. So it really shows you, your determination can do a lot. But when you're talking about, like, the mentality of the region and the way that theology, puts these barriers up, particularly for, certain groups of people,
Right.
y- it's like, business wise, you've got both worlds at the same time competing, and that's difficult.
Right.
So yes, you have these people who want to be progressive in business, yet at the same time they have these dogmatic or theological ideologies
So you're
that are
saying their
outdated.
theocracies are a hindrance to them doing business?
Depending on what business they want to do, yeah, because like
Oh, okay.
some great examples is the FIFA. The
Okay.
advertising here was very poor, and a huge reason was like they were partnering with huge companies like Budweiser,
Oh,
huge,
right.
yeah, but they couldn't advertise it because it's against their
Right.
theology.
That's right, because they drinking
So
is haram. Yeah. Okay,
so
that makes
then they had to go through second, and third hand vendors to do this advertising. But for the vendors, the vendors are getting paid like very low wages in that game. And so they're like, well, we could, but uh, so
right.
I wouldn't say that they did a great job like compared to the type of advertising we're used to,
Right.
in the
Right.
United States or in Europe. The level really didn't come to par, and it's really reflected in the outcomes of a lot of these situations.
Okay.
Financially, they didn't make out as great as they could have.
Okay.
Whereas Dubai, for example, have really done a lot to be much more inclusive, and to, let's say, find a very specific place for their theology that doesn't impede commerce. And because of that, I think they did the best in this situation.
Okay. So, when you made me think about Budweiser, I'm actually thinking about a lot of other potential businesses that could hinder because I guess the religion would consider it haram. So if
Exactly.
if you're dealing, I mean, I can imagine beer, CBD oil, video games.
Oh, there is no CBD oil here,
Oh,
and
well,
and
oh,
and even music itself.
oh, that's
It
right,
was a
music.
real
Yeah.
challenge.
Oh man, I can imagine music is probably a big, big
It
challenge.
was a
Oh
huge
man,
challenge for
yeah,
us. Like, we were, I mean, as you already know, we were performing in all Arabic zones. We were
right.
the only non-Arabic bands performing.
I have a friend from Jordan, and he lives. His name is Ahmed, and he listens to like black metal, death metal music, and he has to have a paper saying that he's crazy. And so if the police come, because they got religious
Yeah.
police, he shows his paper and say, "Yeah, I'm not okay." And so he's able to listen to his
Because he
music.
has, yes, yeah, he found a
Yeah,
way, a loophole
yeah,
through this.
yeah.
And and
Yeah, because he takes meds, he's able to listen to, because of his medical card, he's able to listen to heavy metal music. And if the police come in, they're like, "Oh, I am crazy, I am crazy," and they're like, "Oh, he's crazy,
yeah.
okay," and he's able to
And
listen
just
to it.
imagine, like, metal is very popular in this region. I didn't
Right,
realize
right,
until recently, like, I had a friend, from Egypt,
uh huh,
and he himself, he's a metal drummer.
right.
And, it's a real challenge for him because, it's under considered and undermined, even, through his
It's
family.
haram, yeah. It's
So,
considered, yeah, satanic.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hell, we got. I mean, even with our freedoms here in America, remember we had a
That we
satanic
have a
panic.
Puritan, yeah,
Yeah,
we're a
yeah. So I
Puritan
can imagine.
culture.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, based on these Puritan values, dancing, even rocking or humming to music is considered haram, even in the
Right.
United States.
Okay.
We've just found our way to overcome it, and so it's behind us, in our lineage, in a sense. It doesn't control our activities in our nation, on a mass scale. Only on a very like micro scale does it
Okay.
affect people now. So I think like here, yeah, you still see it on a mass scale,
Okay.
and this is where the biggest challenge comes in because it's really tricky to do business, and yet uphold these ideologies that you may or may not, morally believe in.
Right.
So it's a challenge, and I'm not just saying like me. I don't care one way or the other. I know what my job is at the end of the day, but when you have these musicians and these people whose families have raised them in a theologic ideology, and
Right.
yet they want to progress their country, they want to progress themselves, they want to progress in their industries. It's a huge challenge. I mean, there was even an incident that I was brought to me last week, where during the blockade, when Egypt, Saudi, Bahrain, a few other countries
Uh-huh.
blocked Qatar for political reasons.
Oh,
Um, there was a huge demand for people who were of these other nations, these blockade nations, to
okay.
leave this country, even if their significant others were Qatari. And I heard of a case where a guy was challenged by the Saudi government to leave this country, to strongly enforce the blockade. And this guy had to fight for his rights to be here with his wife. It
Right.
was, it was a huge act of bravery on his part. And, to stand up against, a whole nation was really, I mean, he is a hero, not only to his family, but to, the idea that nations impose themselves upon our personal lives. And
Right. Well,
this
that's
should
what theocracy
not.
do. Yeah, that's what theocratic
Yeah,
governments do.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
people really realize here in America, uh, people who, I mean, all your religions and your sets, I mean, here in America are fall under the freedom of religion. Would you say?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Right. So,
absolutely. Sorry.
you know,
Something.
it's funny how people in America try to push for a theocratic government. And I'm like, no, you just don't get it. It's not, if you push for a theocratic government, you won't be in charge. The government will be in charge.
I mean,
And
which
you'll
is
go by
what they're
their,
already trying to do in many different areas, right? I mean, their martial laws, they're, pulling for, majority party ran governments. These are all, and for lack of a better term, mafia tactics for full control. And absolutely, when you're asking for your government to control your individual and everyone's individual um you know ideologies of religion, I think that people really overestimate, or sorry, underestimates how much impact that's going to have on their personal lives. You
right.
might think that they're going to go your way in the beginning, but
Oh,
it'll
no.
be way too late
No, the
by the
minute the
time that
minute
they're
they get into
infringing.
power, it's too late. The minute they get into power, it's too late.
It's too late. That when they're telling you how to do it, and you find yourself very unhappy, with the way that they want to, let's say, uh, they want to parallel and move along, the mass culture, and then you
Right.
find things are not mixing with your personal ideologies of parenting, and your personal ideologies of keeping your marriage sacred, and your private ideologies of your how you conduct your personal businesses and
That's why
learning.
me and MD, man, we always push personal freedoms here on the arena. We always push that. He does a domestic show. I do the foreign show, and then of course we come in and bring you on Sunday. You come in Sunday and grace us. Um, yeah, individual freedoms are so important, and people really take it for granted. And so I try
Absolutely.
to show other countries because a lot of people aren't unable to travel because of whatever financial whatever. So I try to bring uh, this and show people that we're really in probably the best position when it comes to personal liberties and freedoms. And so,
Right. I
I'm
mean,
not
there.
saying we're perfect, but we're the best.
Right, right. But I mean, I think that like just to be able to even pretend to have, a right to the way you want to live is much easier to do in the United States than it is anywhere else.
Tell them.
The pressure that a family has outside the United States is something is unprecedented to what I've seen in United States. Yeah, you have your very involved families in US. I've known quite a number of them. I think that we even have quite an involved family, and I don't mind their input. But yet, when it comes down to the end of the day and a decision needs to be made, everyone's going to step back and know that the decision is our individual decision in the end. Whereas,
I don't think I've
there's
ever
many.
had issues with. Are you talking about our family?
I mean, I think that like more what I'm saying is the if they see us going down in the wrong direction, they're not going to stay silent.
Oh no, no, no,
You
no. I
know,
know. No, but I mean,
yeah, but
there's that
but at
culture.
the end of the day, they respect and know that the final call to action is our own. And
Right, right,
there's a lot of other places in the world where if you don't act according to the family, which usually ties very closely into the overall cultural belief system, you can be stoned, you can be
right,
shunned, you
right.
are put
Good point.
out of the community
Good
and
point.
intentionally left to struggle, and as your penance for your lack of obedience.
I
And
think the
that.
hardest thing here in America is that it comes down to a debate. Never being stoned, never being hung, or never being whatever form of execution they use. Here it's always, oh, you don't believe in God. Oh, oh my gosh, Jesus loves you. Don't you know that? That's probably the extent of why we
And
go.
that's the end of it. Exactly.
Right,
See you at family dinner on Sunday.
right,
Yeah.
right, right,
What are
right,
we having? Macaroni and cheese or black eyed peas? And
right.
it's true. It's like, whereas in this case, there's situations where, people wanted to marry and secretly ran off and got married. Their spouse was
Right.
murdered by the family afterwards.
Ooh, damn.
Other situations where, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know that it's not, it's not like, huge cultural practice. These are individual cases, but enough of these individual cases to say, wow, these cultural roots have very serious implications if not checked.
You
And
know, and that's very interesting because here in the U.S., well, I want to say universally, family is everything to a lot of people. And I
yes,
think, wow, I can imagine because I I love our family, but I can imagine how if our family was so religiously fanatical to where I guess I could see the pressure because you don't want your family to shun you. So damn, I can imagine that, Nature Mom. I really
I mean,
can.
and let's just imagine it like from, a humanistic point of view
Uh-huh.
where, I mean, we are science, I mean, let's say psychologically, we are social beings.
Right.
And what was very important about being a part of these, clades in the past was that it was your protection. So when you went against the ideologies of your clan left you exposed to elements, particularly vicious animals, on your own, and more than likely, you were gonna face
What?
peril.
But what justifies? I mean, something so extreme. I mean, you're talking about abandonment. I
I
mean, is
I think.
it? I mean, is it serious? Is it that serious to where you would leave another human being to fend for themselves against wolves and bears? I mean, what?
I mean,
What?
we do it to this day. I mean, look at our political system. If you don't agree with a particular party or you don't follow the mainstream ideologies, you're like left on the outlines of the society, on your own to struggle mentally, to struggle financially, I think that COVID-19 was a huge example of this, where, physicians were coming forward and saying, we're seeing some fraud here. We're
Right.
seeing
Good
some
point.
things we want to
Yeah.
expose. And they were like,
Right.
their licenses were canceled, their careers were canceled. And
Oh,
now everything's coming out in the news that these people were actually right. And yet their
wow.
lives have been ruined. Their financial statuses have been ruined, because they were coming out with the truth early on against what mainstream society wanted to hear. And they were allowed to be outskirted and exiled in a sense. And yes, so this is not something new in human culture. I think that this is just
Right.
one of those things that are very revealing about our nature as human beings. And I think that that's like something that we have to come to grips with, like, who are we really as a creature? And why do we think these ways? Very seldomly in the animal kingdom would you see other herds
Mhm.
behaving in such a way.
Right. Right.
It does happen in the animal kingdom as well, but not to the degree that it happens in the human kingdom.
Well, in the animal kingdom, is it more or less like the males trying to compete for the females, and then if the male's not strong enough, then he's shunned out because you need to find your own flock of women. You need my women
Right.
over here.
So
Is
this
it
this
more
is
or
one
less?
example. This is
Okay.
one example. But there's other things, for example, I mean, just simple migration is
Okay.
a very good example of this. If you don't keep up, if you're sick or
Oh
weak,
yeah. Yeah.
you get left behind. I mean, there are some group of animals that show some type of, let's say, empathy or consciousness to
Elephants. Yeah.
try to defend. Yeah, elephants are great
Yeah.
examples of that. um,
Caribous.
they're just fight or flight all the time. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
They
know
kind
yeah,
yeah.
so it's like, okay, yeah, just survive. We'll trample over you, we gotta survive. So I think that it really revealing of our core nature, and that we are beings that can think through it, and we're still not tapping into that higher ability
Right.
to completely think things through and make very clear, um, sound and conscious choices that morally we can live with. I think that's even back to our topic of the night, which half of our time is used up and we haven't even gotten to, but nutrition itself. We know so many things now about nutrition, and yet we still make terrible nutritious choices. We absolutely like do things that are counter to what we even like intuitively feel that we should do. I mean, I have to say, every time I come back home to the States, and it's not just in the States, when I'm now, as I travel and I just look around, I mean, the amount of overweight and obese people compared to 20, 30 years ago is just
Right.
astounding.
Triple. Right. Yeah.
It's astounding. And yet, don't tell me that none of these people realize that they are becoming overweight and that there's something they can do about it, and absolutely no way am I going to agree with you that, fruits and vegetables, as a diet, as a 100% diet, is a resolve to this, because you see so many vegetarians and vegans fat. And no, I'm not going to use any coded and sweet words to pad anyone's, feelings.
Mm-hmm.
The technical term for, lipid is fat.
Mm-hmm.
Fat is also the technical term for lipid.
Right.
And when you see these people, they are carrying a large amount of excess lipid equal fat. And it's alarming. Children, the amount of children that are just, they can barely walk. Something would be very like standoutish in our generation as children. We would notice, there
Like,
was a
I gotta ask you. I gotta ask.
okay.
Last
Hmm.
week we talked about leucines, we talked about fats, we talked about proteins, we talked about carbohydrates. What? Because you said, and you know what? I'm not going to even acknowledge the vegetarians. What fruit and vegetable? What kind of bean? What kind of vegetable produces that much fat? Because now we got to talk about that.
I love it. And I
Yeah.
think that that's one of the most
Don't
important
don't
misnomers on the
Just some
planet.
stuff that I know that comes from a plant is avocado. Ain't nobody eat that much avocado to be 300
Okay.
pounds.
But this is the issue. It's not the quality of the foods that they're eating. It's that they are dequalifying these foods through treatment. They're qualifying these foods. I mean, I have a
I
lady
need
who
a, I
helps
need a,
us
I need a
right now.
plant. I need a plant. I need
Okay, so
plants
no,
right
no. So let me be very clear about this because I think this is something that I'm always fighting for and debating about in my own household.
now. Okay.
Stop overcooking my fruits and vegetables. One, fruits, in my opinion, should never be cooked. And two, vegetables should not be cooked until they're mush. They have no nutritional value when they're overcooked. They are
Okay.
now only becoming fat in your system. And you're overeating them to compensate for the fact that, and then not only are you overeating them, but you're adding these things to cause to, heighten flavor when you just took out the best flavor of them by overcooking them.
So
And
you
this
say
is a
you
huge
cook it into a
issue.
mush, it turns into fat.
Yeah, so let's be clear about what happens when we overeat. When you go over your caloric threshold,
Uh-huh.
anything over that will automatically become fat. Glucose turns into fat and it never goes back the other way. It will always, once glucose, too much sugar, glucose is sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Once too much, and most glucose sources are carbohydrates, of course, coming from fruits and vegetables, grains. And what people are doing is they are overeating every bit of
Fats
this.
don't produce fats.
Fat is fat.
Okay.
So
So
no,
you
it's
eat
not
fat.
producing fat. It is fat.
Okay. So
But
you eat
what we're
fat.
finding in science, and you can research the literature, and I can definitely send you a lot of it itself. What's happening is that the majority of calories aren't usually coming from fats. The majority of the calories are usually coming from carbohydrates and mistreated carbohydrates. And what's happening is people are, and I've witnessed and I've been one of these people myself. I'm eating nothing but fruits and vegetables. I'm vegan. So, I can eat as many, fruits and vegetables today as I want. No, there's still a caloric threshold. There's still a place where I have to be in control of myself, have some self discipline, and walk away and say, I have had enough. I've had enough for the day. My body only needs this amount of calories to survive. And I don't need food to make me mentally survive. I just need it to make me energetically survive. And I
Mhm.
think that that's one of the biggest issues that we have all over the world today is that people are abusing food. They're using food as their pacifiers. They're using food
But
as
you
their,
said a
as their
week ago.
solace.
You said a week ago, or it might have been 2 weeks ago. You said that everything has animal products in it. You remember saying that when I said
Not everything. No, no, no.
not everything. Okay, and I'm glad you said that because it kind of made me
No.
nervous. Because I talked about
No, no,
Taco
no,
Bell.
not everything.
When you say everything at Taco Bell,
I mean, okay, so this is the issue with places like Taco Bell, and one of the
Sharon
reasons
Park.
why I don't eat out.
Mhm.
If you are not doing your due diligence and really researching what that food is, a
Uh-huh.
large amount of it is what I call a conglomerate. So it is a mixture of like some waste, animal waste products. It's some
Right.
mixture of carbohydrate waste products. And when
Mhm.
I say carbohydrate waste, what I'm talking about is over processed fruits and vegetables turned into something that is no longer a nutritional source. And these foods are being packed with these GMO products. That they're
But you,
not carefully GMOing. Like, I'm not talking about, converting
I'm
a
assuming that
potato.
you're talking about like trans fat. Like, okay, was it three fats? The trans fat, the I know trans fat is one of them, but
Okay.
doesn't trans? Okay, let's just start with trans fat.
So,
Trans fats come
so
from animals, right?
So trans fats, saturated fats, unsaturated
Saturated.
fats is the area that you're going into.
Yes.
And what I found, not only from a personal point of view, but from a scientific study point of view, is that trans fats do not have the impact on our health as a whole when they are eaten in moderation. So what am I talking about when I say
Whoa,
moderation?
whoa, whoa, whoa! Stop right there. Stop right there. What are trans fats? Are they
So
animal products?
let's be clear. No, trans fats can be things like coconut oil.
Coconut oil.
Coconut
Okay.
oils carry
Oil.
trans
Okay.
fats.
Okay. But when you
Um,
say trans,
Avocados
okay,
carry trans fats.
okay. So can we define this? So trans meaning it's not a part of that original whatever you're eating. They have to transfer the fat.
No, no,
Correct?
no. That's
No.
not what that means. No, I'll
Okay.
give you
Okay.
the
Let's bring it down.
specific definition right now.
Okay.
Give me 1 second because I would have to get
No.
back to it. I just wrote a paper on last week, but once you're on to the next subject, it's not fresh in your head.
All right. I got
But
you.
I have the information. I just got to pull up. I have this great textbook. So we'll take it directly from, peer approved textbooks in the
Okay.
science community directly.
Okay.
Wait a minute. They're not letting me do it on this one. Give me 1 second and I'm just going
That's
to
fine.
pull up
That's fine.
uh, this textbook. Oh, wait a minute. Is it going to let me in? Why isn't it?
It's probably it can't do too many windows. Yeah, mine's saying home temporarily
Uh,
available. Ooh, yeah, mine's doing a funky.
Yours is stuck as well.
Yeah,
Okay. So
stuck
let
as
me
well.
try something else. Let's see if I can get to this.
Okay, so you did answer my question, and you are correct. Like coconut oils, your
Yeah, there's
oils trend. Okay, so but what I'm asking you is that a lot of those products don't normally have coconut oil. The coconut oil has to be added to it, correct?
um okay,
The
so
only thing that should have coconut oil are coconuts.
Okay, so I think that like what a lot of people are missing about trans fats is that we're talking about a type of fat that does present itself in processed foods, but
Uh-huh.
it is not its only source. Trans fats can be found in natural foods as well. It can be
Okay.
found in meats. It can be found in some vegetables, like we just established. Avocados
Avocado.
and
Okay.
coconuts. So
Peanuts.
basically, what does real trans fat mean? Trans fat means a fat that has particular molecules that at room temperature can become solid. That's
Oh,
all that a trans fat means. And
all
the
right.
reason why this is such an issue for our bodies is because with the when we're in homeostasis, so when we are at a normal set point,
Uh-huh.
it means that these fats can harden in our arterial regions
Right.
and they can start to block our arteries and cause cardiovascular issues.
Right.
That's why they're an issue. Now, what I think you're speaking of specifically is homogenized trans fat or homogenized fats.
Okay.
And these are a huge issue because just like people are up in arms about GMOs and foods that are being spliced with bugs, being spliced with chemicals, being spliced, and it's no longer really food
Right.
anymore. You're
Right.
having the same issue with these fats, these homogenized fats. So basically, they're adding molecules and chemicals to these fats that are not only like hardening fats that should in normal body or room temperature be easier. They're creating these fats that are becoming solids.
Okay.
And the thing about it is that these solids are becoming more and more difficult to break down, even in higher temperatures. And that's a huge issue for our arteries. So, what that basically means is that, you eat an avocado, you go out there and you raise your thermogenic levels through
Okay.
exercise and through different activities, and you can actually get these fats to break down and liquefy,
Oh,
right? But
right.
with these homogenized and these hydrolyzed fats, you're creating fats that can't be broken down
Right.
even in
Right.
higher temperature situations. That's a huge issue for our
Now,
bodies.
the way I observe the
Hi,
fats
Auntie.
actually they cling on to your DNA or cling on. So how do okay, explain how you get
Okay.
fat from that? Because I
Okay.
know where you're going.
So let's be
How
clear
can
about
you-
our bodies, right? And how it works, because especially in this campaign, this US and European campaign that's gone on for the last 40 years is, you know, stay away from fats, right? But
Right.
what they fail to tell us is that if you stay away from fats, you are basically signing yourself to a death sentence because your body, your brain in itself is nearly 70% fat, and your brain completely operates on fat. And when you take away it's
Whoa, whoa. Mind
fueled
just
by carbohydrates, but it
okay.
is in itself built on fat. Your brain is fat.
Okay.
And let's not forget, fat has great benefits in our bodies, like
No, and
insulation.
that's why they say good fats, bad fats. You want fats like you say to retain certain elements of
Yeah,
your body, but you
yes,
don't want to.
homeostatic states,
You don't want to
exactly.
get inside your arteries and clog anything up because then you can
Yes,
have a cardiac arrest,
because
heart
then you
attack.
have an issue.
And
So even something as great as coconut oil, everybody's like crazy about coconut oil all over the world, and they're really not
olive oil too,
thinking.
right?
Olive oil is different because olive oil is a saturated fat, not a trans fat. A large amount of coconut oil can become hard in your systems
Right,
within certain temperature ranges and
right,
cause you cardiovascular stress. And many fats, olive oils, if you're not careful, many fats oxidize quickly. And that's a
right.
huge issue at all as well. So we'll put that in another category for another time, for time's sake for today. But if we're not thoughtful about the way that we are treating our fats, they're going to turn against us quickly, and not just in weight. So
Yeah,
what
but why
science?
not? I mean, what the way I was told is to deal
Mhm.
with whole food. So, like a whole food, meaning like avocado. Avocados have the fats, but they have the
The
fibers
fiber.
to balance, and so does coconuts. Coconuts also have 5%. Why? If you extract just the coconut, you're extracting the oil,
And
everything in the
I think
coconut.
that's the biggest
Yes,
issue, right?
the
Let's
whole
be
food, right?
honest.
The whole food,
Because
right?
what are they selling us in these markets? They're
They're
selling us
extracting
the oil,
concentrated,
an
right? Which is
extracted version of this food.
right,
And
and
so
that's
we're
why.
really getting away from what's important in food.
Well, and even in something as simple as apple juice, I remember I hate concentrated apples because they're like straight sugar and hurt your teeth. But I remember when you had in Pasadena, you had like the bulk, the pulp, and all that, and it was balanced. And it wasn't too sweet, and it was.
It was actually a little bitter sometimes, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it tastes natural. It was natural. It didn't taste like that nonsense that you get from the grocery market. That's just
Yeah.
pure
Yeah.
golden sugar. It's just like, yo, I hate that stuff. But the stuff
Yeah.
that you introduced me to was like I loved it,
Yeah.
even though it was more expensive. But I loved it, and it was like night and day. It was night and day. And you could tell where when I would drink it, my teeth wouldn't hurt. Like literally, if I drink apple juice, my teeth
Yes.
starts hurting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, no, that's that. No, what the hell? Like
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
they're hurting. Like
Yeah.
Tooth decay
A
hurt.
lot of people are finding sensitivities to food now. I think
Right,
because of that very reason.
right.
When you start to extract parts of your food and not getting into a relationship with what the food's benefits is
Natural
as a whole,
whole
you're,
food,
you're
right?
really losing the importance. And it doesn't matter if your diet is keto, if it's vegan, if it's what we call a standard diet, if it doesn't matter what area of dieting you do. But if you keep eating these extracted portions of food, then you're going to start running into problems
But
because
wouldn't all your meats from the market be considered extracted foods? Now, let me just
okay,
say this
so I
as a
love that
vegan,
you said that.
right?
You said from the market. And what I'm going to add to
Right.
that is from the mass market. Because in a paper I wrote just last
I would
week,
say from the market period
I'm,
because
I'm
you
going to
have,
say from the mass market because there's a difference in some markets. And I'm going to explain that now. So the idea was this huge idea, this campaign that WHO and USDA and FDA are pushing now is that you guys. All of our studies are showing that meat is really bad for you, and that that they're
I've seen
showing
it.
high trans fat levels. They're showing all these things now.
Well, they're
When you
saying meat is good if you eat it raw.
okay, wait, let me be
And then you
clear.
put fire to it, it becomes carcinogenic. So it's
So let
like,
me be clear. When you are breaking down those studies, what we're
mhm,
finding is that a lot of holes in these studies, and one particular hole is that the majority of meat that they are studying is from these huge ranches, these unnatural environments where they've got these animals caged side by side,
right.
and what they're feeding these animals before they come to us is not natural to these animals' diets. And yet then
But
they pass them on to us.
okay, but let me ask you something, Nature Mom, because
Hmm.
I mean, I agree. The factory farming is horrific. For the animal, for the pig, the cow, the chicken, and they're creating new diseases, new viruses. A lot of people won't talk about how the last
They're
virus was created. We were trying to
and they're
counteract
sitting
these
these
viruses,
animals in their own like bacteria and feces,
right?
and
So
then they're like,
can we have a diet without eating the animals?
now we can have a diet without eating animals depending on what our nutritional needs are, correct?
Does the
And
nutrients
depending on the
contain every
fact,
nutritional need, though? I mean, I know we
and
talk
let me be
about
clear,
okay,
and contingent upon the fact that our vegetarian sources are getting to the point where they are able to provide us with the variety and the full scope of their nutritional value. The problem today is just like our big factory meat industry, is
uh-huh.
that our big factory vegetable industries are stripping these foods of their nutritional value. They're taking away what's important for us. They're taking away the fact that these foods should sit longer on the trees and fully ripen, fully come into their enzymic systems. They should fully, like be either fall off the tree or be near to fall off the tree, and only sell them in short locations so that we're able to get those full nutrients, not and not with the skins removed.
You
I'm
saying,
in a big fight with that too, because
so
when
you're saying
you
every
have people,
vegetable, if properly, picked or whatever, properly timed, you're saying every vegetable has every nutrient needed to survive.
I'm not saying that at all. What I'm
Why are you not
saying
saying that?
is,
Why are you not saying that?
why I'm saying that is because every vegetable does not have every nutrient that we need.
Can we
What
name
we
one
need
nutrient?
is the basic.
Can we name
What
one
we need.
nutrient? Can we name
I
one
mean,
nutrient?
we could even talk about calcium. Calcium is not in every fruit and vegetable, and that is a very important nutritional need for human beings. And the thing is that there are vegetables that have these nutrients, but they may or may not be vegetables available to us, and we may or may not be eating them in proper combinations that helps us to get the full extract of these nutrients into our bodies and synthesize as they need to be synthesized. And that's a very big issue. Let's say,
Okay, so I've picked up. I
and let's also add they're not being grown in nutrient dense soil so
uh-huh.
that we can get all of the vegetable grown with all of the nutrients that they have, like what used to be before mass farming was available.
Okay, I'm gonna share a screen with you real quick. So you said calcium.
Calcium, yes.
Okay, calcium. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, calcium. Boom. Can you see the screen?
I'm looking at the screen.
Okay. Can you see? Do I have to blow this up? But yeah, these are
Oh,
plant
I see
based.
the digestive system here.
Okay. Oh no, 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 not the digestive system. No, 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 no. Yeah, wrong, 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 wrong. I am trying to share screen. Windows. Boom, 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 and boom. Okay, how about that?
Okay. I see
Broccoli.
plant-based vegan sources. Yeah. So
Yeah,
exactly.
kale,
There
bok
are
choy,
sources available that
collard,
have
turnips.
that
Okay,
have calcium, exactly.
okay.
But
So
so
give
that
us
that
another.
goes right back to what we're saying. In order to get all of the nutrients, the potassium, the calcium, the right amount of sodium, and not from these like over processed table sodium industries, but from
Nature
real
bomb.
sources.
So we got a source and get our calcium. Can we name another source? We can't get.
Okay, so once again, you're going too fast because you're not hearing what I'm saying.
No, I'm
What
hearing
I'm
what you're saying.
saying,
Right.
well, so what am I saying?
You're saying that there are plant sources that contain calcium. So what I'm trying to do is find why I need to eat meat. That's what I'm trying to
Okay,
find. Why do I
so
need to eat?
this is what you're missing in this whole conversation. If
Okay.
you don't feel like you need to eat meat and you have the variety of plant-based sources to get your all of your nutrients that you need for your recommended daily allowance, you have no need whatsoever if that's not your desire to eat meat. I think
No,
that
no, no, no.
the
It's not
people
in my
so
design. No,
so
I
what I'm
want to make
saying is
sure that
the
I'm not
people who
missing. No, no, no,
let me
no.
be clear. The
Okay.
people who do need to eat meat usually is somebody more like me, somebody who has
Why?
very low deficiency levels in iron. I'm not able to get enough of it from these, overproduced, over extracted, spinach sources, that the foods are not wholesome. That's why I grow my own garden, and so that I can control the soil and I can try to get more iron from these sources because I can't take iron supplements and I don't want to take iron supplements. One,
Don't
this
want. Okay.
industry it's not sound. These foods actually, because I've learned to pay attention to my body, they make me sick upon impact, which
Right.
means it's not for me. But also, I don't eat a high amount of red meat sources, but when I do eat red meat sources, especially when I start to have, very, very low levels. And I'm one of those exceptions. My blood level stays within the low 50s, which should be coma
Okay.
and death range.
Okay.
So,
I'm gonna share. I'm gonna share a screen with you real quick.
mhm,
All right. So these are like iron plant food. So we got broccoli,
yes,
pumpkin seeds,
very aware,
and bananas, avocado,
very aware. I think
kale.
that you're missing my very important point, though.
Okay,
When
okay.
these
So right,
foods aren't treated well and they're not grown well, they're
so would you
underpicked,
say that the animals aren't treated well, being shot up with like antibodies
which
and
is exactly why I don't eat meats from those sources.
Okay.
When I come to places like United States and certain
Mhm.
areas of Europe, I go without eating versus choosing those foods as a food source because I feel that I'm not getting what I need where I can normally get it. So let's say, for example, one of the greatest benefits of living in a region like this where, yeah, the theology held back some, practices and also some other practices that are very beneficial. So, for example, you don't have these mass, or maybe there are. I've just never seen them. You don't have these mass
You're
ranches
saying
like you can
because
find in
hold on,
Texas
hold
and
on. Well,
places like this, right?
let me ask this question because I'm a little baffled here because I mean, I think we got the same parents, you and I. Even though men and women, you say diets are different, but I believe we have the same mom and daddy. So what you're telling me is that anatomically, even though we're the same humans, all humans have the same type of organs. You're saying that some require different amounts of different nutrients, and they can't get it from
Absolutely.
plants. Or they
Absolutely.
just,
And
or then you say
especially,
you choosing, you're choosing. You don't want to get it from plants. You recommend.
no, I'm not saying that I'm choosing. I'm saying that I have chosen many times over. And unfortunately, because of the lack of well treatment of these plants, I'm not able to extract enough to keep from having serious medical complications from it. And don't
Okay,
forget,
right. I'm not
being a
questioning that.
woman,
Right.
there's issues that I deal with, that
Right.
doesn't make us like everyday snowflakes. There's issues, monthly bleeding issues,
Mhm.
and of course, as time goes on and my body is fluctuating and changing,
Right.
sometimes the bleeding is much more frequent. So you don't have to deal with those things. You're not losing pints at a
Right.
time.
No,
And so
I want to learn this because, like you said, because there might be women who decide they want to go plant based, and so, but I guess what
yeah.
you're saying is each case is different because you got
Each case, each
plant.
and every case with food, and even vegan
Okay.
to vegan, each case is so individual, and I think that that's one
No,
of the
I agree.
biggest
I
things
agree
that
that
I've learned.
everything is different.
It's
I
such
agree.
a
Right.
individual case, and especially when you're dealing with we're dealing with climate, we're dealing with
Mhm.
so many factors that
Mhm.
are leaching more nutrients than the other. So for example, with you being in a colder, more wet climate versus me being in a hotter wet climate versus when I was in a hot dry climate, all
Uh-huh.
of these things are playing
Exactly. Right.
factors
Right.
into our nutritional, what we're losing through
Mhm.
our nutrition as our bodies are trying to synthesize this for its survival. So this is really important, and this is the thing that I'm always pushing, because I'm always saying, please don't overcook my vegetables. They're already struggling to have the nutrients I need as it is. Don't
Right.
overcook them, because
So what you're
now
saying, it comes
there's
down to
nothing left.
people who don't know how to cook, is what you're saying. Cook your own food. Cook your own damn goddamn food.
And I love, and I love when people
Because it's funny you say that because I'm here in
help.
Atlanta. Uh oh. Uh oh. My computer. Say that again.
Yeah, no, I just saw some type of error
Yeah,
that showed up on the
like a
screen.
glitch. Yeah, mine did too. I
Okay.
don't know what. Yeah, I
Okay.
it might be StreamYard, so I do apologize. That
Oh,
what
it's
I'm
okay.
saying, Nate, Mom, is that um let me say this, and this might be shocking to you. Um, a lot of the vegan restaurants here in Atlanta, I don't like, especially the ones that be trying to do the soul food. It's certain things that just I
Yeah,
don't.
and
First of all, I
probably
don't like.
overcooking everything is my guess.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
they're not only
adding
overcooking, but they're
sugar.
too much grease, too
How many
much
health
sugar,
foods do we come across and they're just packed
like with
with
sugar.
sugar?
Right.
And we know now from study after study how important higher fiber is in our diets, and yet you go to the markets, and I call them pusher systems now. You go to these huge pusher systems and you find that these fiber sources are packed with sugar. You just took away everything important of why I need to eat this fiber in the first place by
Right.
adding two three, 400 grams, up
I
to
agree.
500, 600 grams of sugar per serving. And that's the
Oh,
other
and
thing that
people,
people don't
I'm telling you,
understand
I hate
how to
sugar.
read.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate sugar. I hate the overabundance of sugar. I hate all that stuff. I like natural
It's
sugars. Like whatever apple, if natural that comes, like I said, the whole food. I love it. But yeah, a lot of that
yeah.
stuff that you're talking about, I hate. I
And
vehemently
you
hate
know,
it.
I have people who want to be kind. They come to my house and they take my ingredients, which I know are already suffering ingredients, and they
Mhm.
take my potatoes and they want to cook for us. And then they take the skin off of my potatoes instead of washing the skins. I'm like, you just destroyed my food. I spent good money on that food. You
Right.
just took the most important nutrient part, dense part of that food away to
Okay.
make whatever you're about to make. I mean, and I love you, thank you, but I don't need to sit on the toilet for the next week because you just took everything important out of that food. People really don't get, and I think you broke it down the best. It's really a matter of how your food is raised, whether it is meat source or plant source. It's
Mhm.
how it's raised, what its environment is, and then how you're treating it before you put it on your plate. This
Well, like I
plays a
said, I'm not
huge
against
role.
meat eating again, unless I mean, if you're hunting your own meat, then hey, then you're going to get the best source of that meat. But a lot of people are getting their meat from the market, and that meat has to be cured. That meat has to be preserved. That meat has to be so. Factory farming is
Injected and
it's a no go for me. You know what I'm saying?
fed horrible stuff.
Can I eat meat?
Exactly.
Yeah, if I had the choice, I mean, if I had to come down to it and hunt, which I know how to hunt, my own rabbit, my own deer, my own whatever out there, then I will hunt it. And
But
it's
just
coming
think
from a
about the
meat that I'm
difference
not
of
going to
what
touch
you're going
any
to
meat coming
eat.
from the market.
Think of
That's
the
right.
difference of what you're going to eat when you hunt it yourself. That
No, I'm
deer,
all
that
for
that
that.
rabbit, they're
How
going to
many
be
people
eating
realistically?
grass.
But realistically, how many people listening to the show in America, in Qatar, in Poland are going to actually hunt their own food? There's a very small percentage because a lot of these people will hop in their car, turn the keys ignition, and drive down to the local grocery store where none of that meat is good for you. None of it.
And that's what I would like to add, which what was great about living in more rural parts of Europe, and
Right,
what has been great about living here is that
right.
you still have these very old systems of
And I'm all
herding
for that.
and growing. And
Right.
so, you do drive out and you see the free range camels, you see the free range cows, you see the free range goats and sheeps. And
Mhm.
yes, those are the places that I choose to get my food from when I need to up my meat sources, versus going to one of these hypermarkets. And now there's more and more farms. The farms are growing in their knowledge. So there are people who really have a passion and a love for farming, and
Right.
and they give us food as gifts, and you could really taste the difference in that love and the time that they're
Oh,
putting and the
absolutely. I agree.
full ripening of their food and the soil that they're using versus what you're getting from the local markets. And that is one of the main
Right there, I'm
reasons
hearing the
why
contradiction.
I
Nature Mom, because you get a come on, Nature Mom, you get
what
all your meat.
contradiction.
You're
I
getting
don't
your
I do.
you're getting your meat from the market, Nature Mom. Come on now.
Okay, so no, actually, I
No,
get my
not
meat no from a local butcher,
okay.
and this butcher they use old traditional halal practices.
Okay.
They are
You know what? Yeah, you're right.
free
I
range.
you're in an Islamic country. You're right. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm lucky
Right.
because it could be.
I'm sorry. What now?
And on top of that, when I moved to Europe, there
Hmm.
were still, let's say cows next door, and very quickly they are, and I know firsthand that the government has gone in.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about the massacre of the animals because those.
No,
I don't.
but
Yeah,
particularly
I
they're
got what
going in and they're telling shop owners, if you don't start injecting this meat and put a particular amount of fillers and
Oh, right,
antibiotics, we're
right. Yeah,
shutting you down.
right,
So
right.
they're intentionally trying to poison our food systems. And that's a really difficult situation as well, because we're seeing that over and over again in US. I think I've sent you some live footage of farmers saying, we're being
All
forced to
right.
do
So when
this, guys.
I know you got the FDA out there. Since when did um this start where the government intruded on agriculture? I mean, I know it started way
Hmm.
back when, but when did
Like
it become like
Monsanto's 1920s.
20s? Okay, so before World War II, basically. World War
Yeah,
One.
just at the end of World War. Yeah, so let's say at the start of World War Two, at the end of World War One. Yes, you started seeing during the revolutionary
Industrial
boom.
Revolution. Oh, so they
Yeah,
started coming in and saying, "Well, you got to inject your cows because your cows
money was
are right."
money. Let's centralize food sources. Let's make it so that people aren't growing for themselves anymore. They have to come to us for their food sources.
Right,
And I
right,
think that that's a huge issue, whether you're dealing with fruits, vegetables, meats. When you have a centralized source, it's just like these banks, right? That we all have bought into these centralized systems of money, of the
hmm,
monetary system, and we just keep
right,
getting in trouble over and over again. Whenever something is centralized, we seem to have more and more issues for individuals to like have vitality and prosper, where when people were able, even through the feudal system, when the lords and the
yeah,
noblemen were like sharing the land with common people, they grew the land for the government, but they were able to grow use a piece of that land to grow for themselves and their families as well. And
right.
that system does not work well for commerce and governments.
Um, yeah, yeah. It doesn't work well for commerce and government because why? Because I mean, I want you to break it down to the people. So, because of the money. Okay. Um. Hmm.
When you have obese children and you have obese people, you have a lot of people depending on the pharmaceuticals companies. Notice how much funding has gone into these clinical trials, yet not much has gone back into improving agriculture. The agriculture is getting worse. And that makes no sense. So why are we spending billions to prove how, sound nutrition works if we're only going to keep, pushing the status quo against what we've just proven works?
Right. Okay. Well, damn. Hmm. Yeah. It seems like these conversations we
It's
be
like
having
going
them.
down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. It's well, it really is because a lot of people are dependent on grocery stores, and
By
we're in an age
design.
now by design, right? Well, can you really say by design because we're not teaching the next generation about agriculture? I mean, they just see, mommy and daddy go to the store and buy their food.
And let's be clear. I mean, we're from a generation where we were taught, even if it was through osmosis, we were taught have a small garden right there on your own property, even in the
Well,
middle of a metropolis.
that
You
wasn't,
know,
though. That's
say it
very,
again. Sorry.
that's not very common to the general public, though, is what I'm saying.
No, exactly.
That's not, you know, that's not very common at all,
It's not common
especially,
behavior.
and,
Yet
and
it needs to
because it's
be.
not even common no more for even people to even cook their own food anymore. I mean, that's
I have to agree with you. I have a very good friend who's, a health coach and is, advocates, meditation and all these wonderful things. Yet
right.
she eats out every night of the week. That is
You
an
know,
oxymoron for me.
there's a lot of oxymorons here in the U.S. like that. There's there's fat people that are personal coach trainers now that are overweight. So that doesn't surprise me, Nature Mom. I mean,
So
we're living
what are they training? They're training you to be like them.
training you to be like them, right? They're called what are they called? They're called I forgot the name of them, but they're like life coach. Yeah, life coaches. Yeah, and a lot of them are in bad health, and so I don't know. I don't know.
No, I mean,
So
I think that it's really a billboard, blaring billboard
mhm.
of, use your brain, really use your all your senses. Look at who you're hiring. Look at who
Yeah, but
you
you
are promoting to. Either they're gonna you're promoting them to make you better, or you're promoting them to justify you being worse?
Well, again, Nature Mom, you got to look at the generation. You got to look at the culture and customs. Like I said, if you have a child that they see their mom and dad go to the grocery store, number one, or go out and eat, number two, which is a lot of people, then that spreads that's a generational thing. So,
Yes.
and that generation is looking at it as normal. You know, you going up, pulling up to the drive-through and ordering some fries and a chicken sandwich. That is a normal culture. That is a normal
Correct.
culture to cook. You know, I remember I seen this. My friend Christopher. He's from Oaxaca, Mexico, and his mother makes tortillas by hand. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, you know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
the majority of Mexicans here in the state buy their tortillas from the Mexican
From
store.
the store. And then they wonder why tortillas that should be mostly four ingredients have a whole paragraph
Whole
for
paragraph.
ingredients.
They
It
have
makes
to.
no sense.
Mhm.
So what's interesting is, yes, we had sloppy joes last week. Now granted, they were vegan sloppy joes, so they were made out of
Yeah.
chickpeas, lentils, and
Yeah.
mushrooms. But the
Yes.
buns we made at home,
Okay.
from whole wheat grains. And the lady who I hired to help me, to take care of
So you do
household
eat vegan
responsibilities.
food, Nature Mom. You just have a
Oh yeah,
you just have a vampiric side for mammals. I see.
absolutely. Get arr to little rabbit. I'll bite rabbit ass anytime.
Sometimes rabbit will bite you back too, if you know.
Just true. I've been bitten by a rabbit.
I know, I know. Wow. You know, um,
Yeah.
real side note, I gotta tell this story. I gotta tell you. I don't know if you remember, we lived on Ridgely Drive. And I don't know if
Mhm.
you were there or not, but I kept poking at a
Oh,
rabbit with a stick, and poking,
oh, it
and the
was a
rabbit was
guinea
like,
pig.
huh?
It was a guinea pig.
No, 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 no. This is
It was a
no.
rabbit?
No, this was a rabbit.
Oh, okay,
It was
okay.
a rabbit, and the rabbit I kept poking and poking, and the rabbit was like, ah! And I was scared because it's not that the fact that it jumped out, but it yelled. I've never heard a rabbit yell. That freaked.
Survival.
Needless to say,
Survival. That rabbit was
I
like, you
didn't
will
know
oppress me
rabbits
no
had
more.
voices. I didn't know they had voices, but it was like
Oh yeah.
ah. I was like,
Oh yeah.
and I was frightened because I never heard a rabbit yell before.
Yeah.
I expected it to jump out. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah. Yeah.
expected it to pounce out and kind of,
Yes.
kind of grab the stick, but I didn't. He was like, ah! I was like,
That's what you
I
get.
was like, it actually has vocal cords.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Even a cat's meow. Cats historically didn't meow. This is
Really?
a behavioral adaptation for humans, because they have learned to use vocalization to communicate with us. Yes.
No kidding.
Oh, isn't that great? Yeah.
Well, you got to see me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Dogs, they howl, yes, and they
yeah,
have
right, yeah.
their, pack reasons to communicate through the different vocalizations that they make. Cats historically weren't known to do this. There's no literature showing that cats did this, and now this meowing, this constant like communication with us, we're their food sources. They when they're in trouble or duress, they're meowing at us and looking at us for solutions. It's really interesting to like study behavior and
Okay.
see, wow, they're really making an effort to communicate with us, because they're a cat. Normally they're just like, piss off. They don't need us unless we are their source of food and water and love and care. Then they have a motivation to communicate with us.
That's kind of weird because they still have a natural inkling to hunt, even though unless they just get
Now
fat.
hunt, yeah.
Yeah,
Now they have
but
a fighting, they have a fierce voice, right? When they're fighting, that rah, yeah, right. But
no, I'm just talking
that's
about just hunting in general. Even though you'll feed them, they still go outside and they still go
Yeah, they'll yeah, they
Uh-huh.
bring home gifts all the time, we'll say.
Right. There you
We
go.
get lots of little gifts,
Right. Right.
you know. So,
So
but yeah.
domesticated dog, I don't think they. I mean, they sniff around and they
Yeah.
territorialize and they sniff for other dogs, but they don't really hunt like that
They've
because
kind
I
of
think
lost
you
the yeah,
know.
they more stick to us as their leader,
So
you
yeah.
know, in their pack. Where cats, no, we're not really their leader necessarily. We're their source. So that there's a difference there,
Right.
you know,
Absolutely.
behaviorally.
Right.
Yeah. So
Because
it's really interesting. Yeah, that's behavior. We can get into behavior later.
okay,
So,
I would
Black
love to.
Sun, I mean, I think that, like, again, you know, there's so much more that we can touch on this
Okay.
subject. I think that we've just scratched the surface because truly, you know, let's say one of the practices that is highly controversial that I've practiced almost my whole life, and I've practiced it in different stages, and as more and more literature has come out, is
Hmm.
fasting. You know, I did fasting, you know, in my younger years for religious reasons,
Right.
and now I do it for for health
Well,
reasons.
another thing I want to ask too, Nature Mom, is that because you're studying, and I noticed last week you said you only studied the human anatomy, a horse anatomy, and a turtle anatomy. Uh, well, I guess number one, what field are you going into? And then number two, I'll ask the second question when you answer that question. What field are you going into? Or is this just a general study? Is
Uh,
nutrition going to be your
the nutrition is a part of the general study of this. So this is basically just a blanketed health science study. So, you know, yes, it covers like you know, the whole scope of you know, psychology, which is a big part of the work that I've done, you know, most
okay?
of my life. So it's taking I've let's say the psychology led me into this
Mhm.
because, you know, I found that I didn't want to just stick to psychology, which brought me into, you know,
Okay.
sociology and social work. You know, let's be honest, you know, I really learned that trying to understand how to overcome people's behavioral issues when they don't really want to put the practices in to overcome their own behavior issues, it's not my path in life. You know, I
Yeah.
rather work with
We
people
understand.
who are
Right. It's a lot of work.
willing, yeah, to put in the work for themselves. And I just show you, I take this, you know, meta analysis and all this data, and I can just show you how to organize it in your life. I'm up for that. I'm very good at organizing, but
Okay.
I'm not. I've got my own children, and I don't want to be the parent
No,
of
I get
people
it.
with problems.
I get
Yeah,
it. I get it.
yeah.
But what I was going to suggest or ask, or maybe kind of, I think what needs to be done is when you study human anatomy, I think you also
Mm.
you need to study the anatomy of herbivores and
So
just kind of observe the
we do
similarities. Okay,
we do
because
cover
somehow
this.
somehow you and I we kind of we miss, like I said, because last week, and then I'm going to say it because we agreed that we're going to talk about the human anatomy, correct?
Correct.
And when
So
I
I
got on
think that
my eyes, you
I,
got upset with me. You got upset with
I
me when I got on
no,
my
no,
eyes.
no, there was no upset. I think that, like, what's important to know is when I say to you that I've only in depth studied, you know, let's say particularly the lymphatic system of comparing humans to horses to turtles. That's
Uh-huh.
very specifically saying that in depth, you know, I've studied these things. Do you know, in biology you study life in general, so we've
No, I
gone
get it.
all the way from bacteria, you know, fungi, to eukaryotes, prokaryotes,
Right.
you know, which involves us. We are the eukaryotes, horses, us, you know, turtles.
Yes.
Prokaryotes are our plants, so we did very deeply get into botany. Um, but I think that what you didn't understand and what I was saying is that, like, when we're talking about specific anatomy
Mm-hmm.
of particular animals, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when you are studying animal per animal, it's very important to know the specific anatomy
Mhm.
of each animal, not just the general anatomy. So the specific anatomy that this is my second time in life of studying human anatomy,
Mhm.
and it's important because yeah, this does have a future goal of something very specific that I'm working towards. But specifically studying horse anatomy, no, it's not a part of that goal because it's not important to what I'm doing. So like
No,
comparing
I
myself to
understand
other
that. I get
eukaryotes,
that, and you don't want
yeah.
to like exert yourself over any extra studies. I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
What
But
I was
yet, let's
trying
say, for example, understanding rat or rodent anatomy is very
to.
important when studying human anatomy because most studies that are being conducted are, in the literature is pertaining to us. A lot
Mhm.
of people don't understand that the only, entity that they've studied these theories on are rodents. And
Right.
so how does that translate when we are now talking about the systems of a human? A lot of times, and what new science data is showing is that it's not translating over in a lot of ways, that
Well, I
some of
wonder
the
why. Because they're not. I mean, common sense would tell you that the chimpanzees, the apes, I think we're different by two chromosomes. I mean, I'm not for animal study, but what I'm just saying is that the closest mammal to us are the ape, not the rat, not the raccoon, not the goddamn possum. It's the fucking ape. It's the fucking chimpanzee. It's the gorilla. It's the
yeah.
orangutan. They are closer to us than some goddamn rodent. So yeah, I'm no. What the fuck?
And then
Yeah,
most studies are based on rodent studies.
with
And really, in the world of nutrition specifically, they're really starting to find that there's not a lot of crossover the way that they believed in the past. Because, for example, some of the foods that they can give to rodents and the hours in which they're eating completely are mistranslated in human biology
wouldn't it be
because
closer? And I'm not saying it would be perfect, but wouldn't it be just closer to study a chimpanzee or a, I don't know, a orangutan or a
yeah,
gorilla?
but the issue is that, they're not as prolific as rodents. And so that's why you find rodents are the main source of studies, kind of like how
I
fruit
guess I
flies.
would have to ask what kind of studies are they doing because apparently they're not doing the right type of studies if they're not prolific. Because I mean,
I mean,
sometimes
just like think about a lot of studies, you must factor in the propensity for death. And so you need a highly prolific
right,
animal
got you. Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. I
consider
got you.
that.
Yeah, yeah. That's very unfortunate.
Yeah,
So
and that's the way you really have to think about it. If you use chimpanzees and other apes at the rate, especially how
yeah,
so
well,
many of our ape series, our ape species are now on the endangered species list,
right,
it'd be
absolutely.
impossible to study them. Do better studying humans.
I mean, when we say study, I mean there maybe non-lethal ways of studying animal where you don't affect their health or affect their life. I
Yeah,
mean,
a
can you
lot
just
of these
observation?
nutrition studies in particular, or pharmaceutical studies, it's really important to you know eh, I mean, you have these huge ethical issues, right? Because you have
Absolutely.
these people in these agencies that are saying, even when people want to volunteer for it, they're saying, no, you can't do that on humans. When actually,
Right.
especially if people are volunteering, that's the best way to find out true hardcore data that pertains to us, particularly. They're volunteering for it, they're signing off. But science, and certain groups are saying, no, you have to study it in this way first, and then it's just not ethical to do these studies on humans, which it's a hard topic because i'm,
But
I'm
that's
not
funny
sure.
because we used to study on African Americans, Tuskegee experiment, anyone. But I understand, the history that especially Africans have had with medical apartheid. With I don't know. I mean, we have a dark history.
Yeah, well, there's some dark histories there, yeah. So I
Right.
understand why these
I
groups
do
are
too.
trying to stand up.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
do
just
too.
think
I do
that the
too.
hard part that I'm having is when people are consenting to this, and yet you're blocking their consent because, there are
Yeah,
wonderful things to be gained from people who are
I
willing
agree.
to
I
give
agree.
their body to science.
I agree. Um,
Am I one of those people? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I may want to be one of those people who give my body to science.
well,
Um,
it's funny because remember when I talked about CTE, I think that CTE they said they need more studies and more donors because you
that's
know
the only way you're going to get the
yeah,
data.
yeah, yeah. I'm with it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with it.
yeah.
Right,
It's a
right.
tough one. And
Yeah,
even the topic of nutrition itself,
yeah.
we're just, especially like I was just saying, the data is starting to miss so much on the rodent studies versus like human
Absolutely. I mean, yeah,
metabolism that we're not going to get to some truths without more human studying. And
right.
I think that this is a huge issue because, yeah, like you said, because of the dark past, because of some of these, you know
Genetics and yeah,
these freak scientists that just use their biases and their prejudices to play
right.
out their
In fact,
their
we need to
Hannibal
shout out
Lecter
MD.
past.
MD came out with a new word last night called Negrogenics.
Negro.
Negrogenics. Yeah. Shout out to
we
MD
we know
20.
there's been a lot of negrogenics that took place.
They're still
Eh,
going on today. There's a lot of Negrogenics going on
I mean,
today. Yeah.
really, I just got a very disturbing piece of medical information about a woman a woman whose babies should have already been attempted to be taken out, and they're just waiting for her to go into sepsis. So that there's a choice that has to be made instead of saving both lives. It's
Right.
interesting,
Right.
and only would that happen in negogenics,
Of course. Damn.
so yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
think that
actually there's a good book. Yeah, I know you probably read Medical Apartheid. Have you read that one?
I know about this book, and I
Oh,
haven't had the chance to get my
oh,
hands on that book yet. I'm very interested in reading it.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I like it
uh,
because not only do they cover United States, but they cover South Africa, and they
ah
cover actually parts in Europe and Middle East also. Oh, and Asia. Oh, and South America. Yeah, they cover most of the world. I
because
thought it was
of
just a
course.
book about America, and I was like, "Whoa!" Yeah,
No,
so medical
no.
apartheid, and it's funny because they end in South Africa apartheid where they do an experiment. So I was like, "Oh wow!" I
Yeah,
thought this
yeah.
was just about Tuskegee and what America went through.
No,
Yeah, they
no.
they
I
went
mean,
all around the world.
I think of the most recent and relevant example of medical apartheid is the COVID-19 virus, and especially what
Absolutely.
China did, like forcing these people out of their homes, these this African diaspora out of their homes, and militaristically terrorizing them. I mean, it was a very you know hard case example of modern day medical apartheid, and the government's involvement in it and using martial law to enforce it. It's just
Wow,
disgusting,
it
and
is.
yeah, it
It
still
really is.
is
Yeah, it really
prevalent
is.
today.
Right. It is. It is. And again, because in that book, there's a lot of parallels. You got to read it when you get time. It's really a good book.
Yeah, I
Recommend it.
please
Yeah.
remind me of this book because right
Yeah.
now
No, it
I'm
is.
reading so many
Yeah.
great literatures and
I know you are.
study after study, and I'm really tearing this stuff apart.
Absolutely.
And I think that the one thing that is the takeaway for me is that I, if we had any subject to tell our school districts to put more money in and make sure that our children are like getting quality teachers to teach
Right.
is biology. How can we do anything if we don't know anything about ourselves?
I'm with you on that. I'm with you. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree 100%. We went to Hamilton. They had one of the best biology courses
They
in.
had the science magnet program. Yes.
That's right. Yeah, 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 yeah. I
Yeah.
can't remember if were they in the top 10 nature
I
mom. I
mean,
can't remember.
this school got a lot of funding. They still do. I
Oh
don't know where they
yeah.
sit
Yeah.
now, but they got a
Okay.
lot of funding for their
Well, they got
program.
funding when we were going. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that just tells you a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
They really were a flagship program. And we
absolutely.
definitely need more education on this level. And let's also consider that education has taken a huge shift since COVID.
Right,
And we got to start recognizing that shift and not expect that things are going to go back the way that they were before. Education is not what it was when we were growing up, and kids
right,
availability to information, they don't need school anymore, not in that way. School really has to innovate and really has to learn how to teach these modern learners
right,
in a much better and engaging way, if they want to compete with new systems of education that are
okay,
already happening. I choose that TikTok is not my kids, number one source of education,
right,
but
right.
TikTok wants that.
TikTok wants the
Oh yeah, look at the way that they're educating our kids to think and behave, and you know, it's
right.
not by accident. This is nicely and well, navigated. You know.
Yes, of course, of course, of course, of course it is. I'm just thinking about some things
Yeah.
TikTok. Wow.
Social media. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
YouTube, you could Google
YouTube.
everything, and
Yes.
now AI is on the scene.
Yes.
Everyone is using those chatbots these days, right? To like learn
Yes.
information and dig deeper than they could even think of digging on their own.
Right.
I mean, I think that we're already in the era of like
Oh,
we're
absolutely.
in a new age. And I'm really thinking about that myself as a parent. Of course, I restrict social media use for
You
my
got to.
kids.
Hell, not only
uh,
kids, adults. You got to restrict some of these adults.
yeah, for sure, especially for health
Wow.
reasons and
Yeah, yeah,
growth
definitely.
hormone reasons. But
You're right.
particularly, I really have considered recently, and especially since we've been having these conversations about diet and really
Yeah.
understanding the depths of how people think they're good eaters and they're really crap eaters. They're really terrible.
Well, they're just
And
going
we're not
by.
just
They're going
we're
by
not just
what they've been taught, though. They going. You
yeah.
really. I mean, how do you
And
fight
there's
a
a lot
person?
of misteachings out there. And I'm
Well,
gonna
again.
directly point the finger at USDA, FDA, and
Right.
WHO and these organizations. They are not teaching sound information 100%, and they know it. And
Well, you have
no,
to
I'm
go. I mean, you can go as far back as 1970. I want to say 73. And you can move forward. And like I said, if you're looking at generations, like I said, if a person's mom and dad, and they mom and dad, and they mom and dad, well, my grandmama been eating the chitlins all her life, and she lived in. But I mean, there you go. I mean, so you're
I
talking
mean, but
about.
the thing is not just like this way of eating, right? Because
Mhm.
this way of eating was a survival way of eating, but it's that like
Right,
holding on to that culture of eating as the industry is evolving your food sources, and they know that they're evolving your food sources. So not only you eating high fat foods that once benefited you because you were physically laboring from the moment the sun was about to come up to the well after the sun went down,
right.
but you are now sedentary and still trying to eat these foods, and now these foods have hardly any nutritional content. So what are you eating? And what are you eating for? I think that that's the biggest question that people don't understand. Really choosing, what are you eating for? I had to ask myself that. It started with the psychology. I had to ask myself this psychological question of, why am I eating like this? And let's be clear, this is after decades of studying holistic medicine, holistic eating. And I thought, I, like you said, like compared to a lot of the rest of the world, my way of eating seemed quite sound. Yet,
Well, let me say this because a lot of times too, we got to remember the labeling of a food changes too. Like somebody might, okay, like I think it was
great
the
point.
best quote I want to use, and let's go back to Jesse Owens and I don't know Adolf Hitler. You know when he won the race, when he won the little sprint thing, and Hitler sent his, because Hitler's trying to create a master race and a master diet and master. And so, he went to, we must find out what this man is eating. And Jesse Owens told him a plantation diet. But what people don't understand is that in the plantation, those people had little access to the meats. They had more access to the fruits and vegetables and the collard greens and all that. And they had very
Well, they
little.
could hide.
But
Well, they could
now,
hide to grow. Yeah.
as time progressed, after the industrial age, they put more meat on the plate. Now you can still call it plantational diet, but it's not the same as pre-war, right? So when people, because I remember I told somebody that one day, and they're like, well, what about chitlins and this and that? I'm like, no.
That wasn't, let's not forget that most of the food that we call our southern foods were food stolen from the farm animals, the plantation animals. It wasn't the plantation animals themselves, because you would be whipped, killed, all types of things, to take a whole animal for yourself to eat. That was impossible,
exactly.
Knowing our history. So, I mean, what was happening was people were hiding their gardens. They were creating their own hidden gardens in the woods. And so that's why greens became so prevalent. One, because it was a weed at one point. And two, when this weed started to become known as a good food source, then these people had to take the seeds when they could, and then go and start their own, put them in their hair, and then start their own hidden gardens in the bush, in the forest. And that's what a lot of people are really missing in connecting, let's say, the sciences, connecting the history.
Learning the proper history. So when people, like I said, when they hear Jesse Owens tell Hitler science, well, it was a plantation diet, they automatically think of the more modern plantation. When I say modern, meaning after the war, as opposed to pre-war. Jesse Owens was doing the pre-war plantation diet.
Yes. And let's really consider that at that time as well, especially foods that could be foraged, like greens, different types of greens, they weren't as highly valued, where they've become valued now that we have science that shows, can break it down to the enzymes and what actual molecules they have. Now we can have huge value for it, and the prices are skyrocketing to match it. But back then, it was considered a weed. It was considered, unsophisticated food that was okay for the slaves to eat. And another, interesting thing to really consider is the crop sharing era, where, everything that you grew, everything that you did was being charged against you. So if someone found out that you were growing that food, they found a way to charge you for it, charge you for feeding your family. So it was really
you got some corn here.
You owe us for growing that corn. And so people really don't think about that as a whole and consider, the evolution of food, particularly in certain, cultures that were intentionally targeted and oppressed. So, there's a lot of information here, and really considering that, we are still being oppressed in so many ways, as a mass culture now, no matter what your race is, to being completely misled at all. And this whole label, I mean, they gave you labels, but yet they didn't teach you how to properly read them. And I guarantee you, most of you are reading them wrong. You're reading them wrong, period. You're reading those labels wrong. They're making you believe you are eating a certain value of food that you are not eating. You're over consuming, and that's why you're overweight. And I guarantee you, everybody out there who's listening is slightly overweight. And I had to fight really hard understanding, in a deep level, understanding metabolism and hormone secretion and that whole micronutrient game. Wow.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I got a lot to say about that one because that's a
Okay.
huge misleading. And
Oh,
yes, uh,
micronutrient? Yeah, 'cause they push that a
yes.
lot.
Oh, they
Oh,
push it a whole lot,
they push
you
it a
know.
lot.
So I think that the
Push it a
thing that
lot.
I've learned is, when the media is pushing left, go right.
Oh, I do
And
that anyway. I do that anyway.
yeah.
Trump 2024, anybody? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh gosh. So, I think that's the biggest thing to really take from, the end of this conversation
Right.
is that, there's so much misleading going on.
Yeah.
And yes, you are responsible for your health condition, but you are also being misled because they're reading into your psychology and your lack
Right.
of knowing how to get to that information. I've shared with you guys before, from COVID, to, a certain point in my life, I learned just through physics how to drop 30 pounds on my own.
Oh,
And from
wow.
that time to now, I've learned how to get healthy on my own and how to draw
So
full
drop 30
nutrients.
pounds healthily, like healthy.
Health, oh yes, yeah.
Oh,
We're
that's
not talking
pretty
about
good.
all the not
You
following
sitting
any
on a gold.
fads.
You're sitting on a gold mine there next time talking like that. Because they
And
push that. You can lose 30 pounds. And then, yeah, they put that's
yes,
real big.
yes. Oh,
That's
my
real big.
favorite is all of the targeted marketing. Are you over 40? Can you not lose weight? No, because you taught me to not read labels properly. You taught me to not cook food properly. You taught me to, take away the proper senses of my taste buds so that I'm always craving too much sugar or too much salt,
Right.
and it's throwing off my hormone secretion, it's throwing
Mhm.
off pathways, and it's throwing off my ability to make good eating choices that
Right.
are to fuel my body.
Absolutely.
And this is what's really important, and it's missing.
Right.
And people
Only
ask me all the time, how did you get your kids to eat vegetables? I gave it to them. Sorry to be
right.
sarcastic about it. I gave it to him.
Good
So
point.
when your little cute butterball is like suffering from, child onset diabetes, and not the natural one, the same one that adults were suffering from the last 3 decades, and now your kids have it.
Yeah.
And you ask me how my kids, stay healthy,
Yeah.
it's a teaching point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dang.
So
Man, it was a great conversation, Nature Mom. Like I said, nutrition. I'm glad that you're reading your book because, like, your studies. Because, man, when we do these shows, you just boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I love it. I love it, man. And we might have to do a show on the labelings, the how to
yeah,
read labels.
let's
Let's
go
do
for
that.
it.
Let's go
That
for
we
it.
can
'Cause,
do
yeah,
that. I would
that's
love
yeah.
it.
Because you're right. I don't think a lot of people are reading. They just grab and just
No,
throw
they're
in the
misled
basket.
on purpose. I mean,
Well,
they are,
I
and let me
don't
just
know.
be clear, people. There's a target for you to be misled.
I agree with that. However, Nature Mom, there are people that don't even read the labels. But well, you know what? So I guess we don't have to do this in stages. We're gonna have to deal with people who don't read labels and then people who do read labels that are being misled. So do we combine that in one show or do we break those two
Um,
down? Because we're talking about two
I
different.
think the first step would be you kind of showing me how to present the data like you do so that people can see, because when you can have a visual connection to what you're learning, then
Uh-huh.
it'll be automatically like set in your brain. You walk into that store and you look at that label, and when
Okay.
somebody walked you through it, your brain will automatically get back to that memory and go, wait a minute, but I know this says
Right.
this, but what that really means is this,
Okay.
and that's what's important, so the presentation part of it is a huge
Good
gain
point.
for people who want to learn.
Okay. Well, we can get to it. We can get to it. I love it. I love it. So we will do a part three, and we
Okay.
will do labeling. So we can combine. I guess we can combine it 30 minutes on non-readers to as opposed to readers. I guess we can.
There's so much information here. We could probably spend spend a good year just talking about like good nutrition, and
Okay.
so however you like to approach it, we can organize it that
Let's deal
way.
with the labels then. Let's definitely deal with the labels because yeah, and in fact after we do this show, I'm on my way to the store now. But yeah, the labeling is really because I see two types of people. I see people in the store they just grab something and just throw it in the basket and just grab, and then those that kind of pause and read labels because what taught
Yeah.
me a big lesson on reading labels, and it's funny because I don't like doing tomato sauce no more, but
Mm.
a lot of tomato sauces add a lot of sugar to
So much sugar. It's
so much sugar,
ridiculous.
right? So I went through this phase, but I'm not a fan of tomato sauce no more because of the acids. I'm 50 now, so I'm not trying to even go there no more. But there was a time in my life where I was doing this Italian kick, the lasagna, the spaghetti, the ricottini, the ziti, the baked ziti. I went through that phase and went through a lot of red sauce, but the red sauce that I did deal with didn't have no sugar. And I even called the company one time. I think it was Classico, and they had trying to put sugar in it. I called. I said, I want my money back. Blah blah blah. I was complaining. I was being a Karen, and they sent me like they like gave me this whole coupon, and they put this stuff back on the market where it didn't have no sugar. So
The sugar-free one, yes.
yeah,
The classical, I remember a few decades ago, they were actually one of the best contenders of like
they were.
not adding sugars.
Yeah,
Now,
that's why I
no,
was so shocked. That's why
yeah,
I threw a
no,
tissy fit when I was like, when did y'all start adding sugar? You guys are the people I go to. The reason why I go to Classico and recommended Classico because you guys didn't have sugar. Now you're telling me you're adding
now
sugar
you
into
do.
your like
Now
what
you
the
do.
hell y'all doing?
And they're doing it. Well, they're addicting you to these foods, is what
It,
they're
but they,
doing.
but no, no, you don't have to addict nobody if you have a good product. Who do y'all need to fire in corporate to understand that? Like you don't, if you have a good product, you don't have to addict people.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't have to add the
That's the
sugar.
issue. And unfortunately,
If you have a good
because
product.
you are a majority, and most people have already, become addicted, and they've destroyed their taste buds to taste real quality food. So they don't have to sell us quality anymore, and that's a huge issue. This
That
is
is
going back to what we've been talking about. They're able to give us these tomatoes not even ripen on the vine, and then they just gas them so that they turn red,
right.
and there's
Oh,
no nutritional value in them, and that's a huge issue. So they don't even they just have to like give these foods growth hormones to grow
mhm,
fast, get to a
right,
certain size, not even be viable food sources, and sell
right.
them.
Okay.
They don't have flavor, add sugar. They don't have enough flavor, add salt.
Yeah, that's sad. That's really sad. Damn.
this
And we
is
wonder
this
why
is where we've been for a long time.
this is where we've
And
been.
like
Right.
the globe is overweight, you guys. It's not just in US anymore.
Well,
Everywhere
it's
I
not just you
go,
think.
people are obese. Everywhere. And it's already permeated culture after culture. You see obesity in every single culture now. And it's
Even in
interesting
Islam?
because oh, yes. Oh, very much so. And what's very interesting is, a time where, a certain size of a woman that would wear a bikini, you know, um, now it's the overweight who is considered to look good in the bikini. And, I'm not trying to knock, I believe in body positivity, but I think that there's, a certain level of body
It's
positivity
health.
that
Yeah.
needs to also include health, and we are beyond that health level. We should not be in the overweight category constantly. I mean, the data is there, guys. It's putting pressure on our arteries, it's putting pressure on our heart, it's putting pressure on our eyes, it's putting
Yeah.
pressure on our liver, our kidneys, on every functional organ we have. And the trajectory of cancers, the trajectory of food induced conditions now, we wonder why so many people all over the world are like hooked on pharmaceuticals. because the food that's supposed to, give us our first level of medicinals, of medicine, which is food, is not food anymore. It's
Right.
not medicine anymore. It's not viable.
Right.
And then we take it home and then we overcook it more, and we just make sure that it has no value whatsoever.
Right.
And what's worse about it is when you buy good quality food and you treat it well and you prepare it well, it's so delicious. You're considered like a gourmet cook. People are like, "Did you go to culinary school?" And I'm like, "No, no,
Right.
dear, I didn't go to
Yeah.
culinary school. I just barely cooked it."
Right.
You
Wow.
know?
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Nature Mom,
Yeah.
we gonna man, I thank you for coming out. I think we had a lot of people show up, but there nobody. I mean, we only had one in the chat, but a bunch of people on the watching. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice to know you guys are out there.
yeah. I just
Uh,
wish they would leave a comment or even say, "Hey, fuck you," just something. I don't know, but yeah,
I mean, maybe they're just soaking it in, because I think
there
that
you go.
this is something we all innately feel, but
Right.
we also feel we don't know anything about because we've been intentionally led down this road of ignorance. Intention.
Yeah.
Like I said, at one point in this conversation, I do call these hypermarkets pushers. I think that they do more harm than any cartel has ever done. And, I think that we are in dangerous territory, and we are really fighting for our lives right now. And it's becoming obvious just in the normal stature we're starting to see everywhere. It's
Absolutely.
not healthy to be overweight constantly. It is huge pressure on your body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, Nature Mom, I know you got to get back to your studies, man. This
Yes.
is great. Next week at 11.
Next week at 11.
Okay. Okay. Finally, man. What took you so long, twin? You look, god dang. Oh yeah, at work. Okay. Okay. Twins at work. Okay. Cool. Twin. Yeah. I'm just like, where are all these people watching? So
Yeah, wait, Sunday. Sundays are busy in US. I forget about because Sunday's a work week here. So, yeah,
um,
yeah, it's hard to say.
it's hard to say because you
Yeah.
got people working at night now. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
I worked at night, so I can't look. But yeah, the work week is after, like you said, after COVID is very. Yeah, we need Trump back in office so we can get them Trump gas prices.
Oh gosh.
Trump, if you're listening, you have admin. Yeah, we need those Trump gas prices again. I'm just I know everybody's not a Trump supporter. I get it, but I support those Trump gas prices.
You know how I feel about government.
You weren't here during the Trump gas prices, so I'm gonna let you get a pass, Nature Mom. But those Trump gas prices are great. $2.12 a gallon.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So yeah, I will be voting for Trump again because I want those Trump gas prices. I'm a trucker. I'm sorry, I'm a trucker.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this indictment is gonna go for him.
Oh, so you didn't hear about the indictment on Biden, apparently. So we have two people indicted running for president. Yeah.
Wait, the indictment on whom?
They have an investigation on Biden right now for bribery. So we're gonna have two candidates. So we even the playing.
This is gonna be the new game, you guys, and that's just the thing. It's the game, and I say, let's wipe this monopoly board and find a new brand to play with, because
I don't know. I like them Trump gas prices, Nature Mom. I like them Trump gas prices. I'm a truck driver, so I'm just saying.
I understand.
I like going to the pump and pumping $2.12 a gallon into the tank. Okay.
I understand that. This game is tough, and
it's not tough.
I'm just not sure that we have been given our best options yet. Be nice to get.
$2.12 a gallon was the best option. I don't know what you're talking about there, woman. It was a great option for me. I like the $2.12 gallon play.
All right. On that note, yes.
So we're gonna deal with the labels next week, y'all. So yeah, shout out to Twin, shout out to MD, shout out to everybody.
Great to see
Shout
you
out to the
guys.
Arena family, man, and family. And shout out,
Thanks,
man,
Twin.
if y'all have a brother, a sister, man, a sibling, tell that sibling, man, you are the best. Nature Mom, you're the best, man. Shout out to Momo. Shout out to Rule Breaker. Shout out to D Nice. Shout out to Sonic. Shout out to, these people know who I'm talking about, man. Shout out to the family. Man, you know what? Family's wonderful. That's all I can say. Family's wonderful. Especially when you bring them all together. Family support. You gotta, support your, Be nice, be kind to your family members. Be kind to your family. Be kind to all your family members. And with that being said, we out, y'all. Peace, 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 peace.